the Adam West Batman girlfriend.
The OG.
The OG.
Okay, we are talking Batman this morning because I was noticing yesterday on Twitter, it started trending there on the side column, and it was because the official rating came out for the brand new Robert Pattinson, The Batman origin story. It's got the Riddler, it's got the Penguin, it's got Catwoman in it. It sounds really cool. But people were disappointed, and some of them downright mad that it got rated PG-13 instead of R. And so I pulled up this article from Variety, and we can kind of show you the headline. I think our producer, Cassie, can maybe pull it up. It's been rated PG-13 for strong, violent, and disturbing content, drug content, strong language, and some suggestive material. Wow. But it needed more F-bombs and more gore and violence to be rated R, which it does not have. It has explosive fight scenes and it has gritty material, but it's not rated R. And some are arguing, you know, the studio designed it that way so more young people can go to the theater and spend money to see it. So it got us kind of thinking and talking. There's the article. You know, did you let your kids under 13 watch PG-13 movies? Did you let them watch R-rated movies before you know, they turned older? Do you watch a movie beforehand to see if it's okay and then let them watch it? Do you watch it with them? How do you guys do it? Tell me all of your advice.
Yeah, we do have a lot of people that watch the stream that I feel like a lot of our viewers on the stream, at least the way they comment,
have grown kids.
Have grown kids.
Yes.
So we're definitely curious, how did you handle things with your kids, you know, whenever it was, a few years ago, a decade ago, if you're doing it right now, if you're raising kids right now, we want to know how you handle that rating situation in your household, because I remember growing up, my aunt was pretty relaxed when it came to letting my cousins were younger than me by like 3 or 4 years, and she was pretty relaxed when it came to letting them watch movies, right? But their best friends, their neighbors 2 doors down, their parents were completely strict. Like there was no MTV for those kids. Yeah. And my cousins always had MTV on, so it was like this conflict of parenting styles, and these parents got along, my aunt and their neighbor, but it was like they were very clear, and we're not letting our kids over your house because you got too much MTV on. That's fine. And we'll send our kids down to your house where we know there will be no MTV.
Yeah.
Well, what about, like for me, I don't so much care about the language. Natasha's 15 now, but or even a couple years ago I didn't. I don't want her to watch a movie with a bunch of sex in it, and I still don't want her watching a movie with a bunch of sex in it. So that's the one thing.
She's what, 15?
She's 15.
Now? Okay.
So that's the one thing that I think my wife Grayson is the same, that we kind of guard against. The other stuff, yeah, whatever.
Now this is interesting to me because Drew, you are the same way, and it sounds like Rod, you're kind of the same way, where sex stuff is worse than violence or murder gore or stuff like that. Is that true?
I'm glad you put it in quotes. Because I don't know if it's worse or not.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, is it worse? Is it,
But why? Can you guys articulate the why?
Yes, uncomfortability. That's it.
For you or for them?
Well, I know for me.
Or for you together.
And maybe it shouldn't be that way, but I am less comfortable watching something that kind of goes into the sex realm than I am that goes into the violence realm with them. Like I can
dig into that.
Okay, well, what are you, my psychiatrist?
Yes, because I find this fascinating.
Because, okay, well, I'm going to give you examples.
Okay.
The Expendables is a movie that maybe you all haven't seen, but it's like it's an action
superhero.
Yes, it's the old action hero. Yeah. Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme. They all came together and made a trio of movies about 5, 6, 7 years ago. There's nothing to these movies other than beat them up, shoot them up, kick them out, knock them down. The hero saved the world. And I mean, some of these scenes, like the guns in these scenes are humongous, and like bodies are just being, you know, blown apart all over the place. I'm sitting back there, I'm watching my kids. They don't seem, you know, shocked by any of it. I don't see them afterwards, like, you know, trying to run around the house and shoot each other. It just doesn't seem like, it's almost like they know this is the movies, this is so over the top, it's not really believable, but we're enjoying the theater.
Do you talk to them about that, or when they were younger, did you say that? I
remember watching Indiana Jones and the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm sitting there with the boys. They were probably 6. I'm letting them watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. I didn't think it was a bad deal. Mia walks into the room at the very moment the guy pulls out his knife and he starts swinging it like this. And Harrison Ford is like, looks at him and goes, shh, pulls out his gun, points it at him, shoots him, the guy's dead. And Mia's like, oh, what are you watching?
Horrified,
and I'm like, I'm watching Indiana Jones. You know, I did not have a conversation with them. I looked at them. I thought to myself, they look okay. And then we went back to watching the movie.
I think that's called desensitizing. Because I do think that everybody is kind of, I mean, is that not America's puritanical
I was just going to say, I think it's an American thing that we're so like weirded out by sex, but we're totally cool with guns and violence.
Yeah, which is, I remember when Zach was little and I did not, I think, you know, their dad was on the same page. We didn't ever let the little ones, you know, watch the PG-13 or the R-rated especially. However, somehow, was it a Green Goblin something movie? I don't remember what it was. Somehow Zach was watching it, I think with his dad's blessing, and I came down and I sat down on the couch and I was watching the kid watch the movie, and there was one scene that I came upon, and it was, I mean, it was kind of dumb now when you say it, but again, he was smaller, and there was the Green Goblin who zoomed in and was terrorizing some older lady, like a senior citizen. And at that moment, Zach laughed. I'm like, that's off. It was just icky to me. I was like, there was a little bit of that kind of sadistic thing going on, even though it was kind of cartoony, you know, when you look at it as an adult, absolutely. But I hated that he was desensitized to it and thought, that's okay, or that's fun, or that's funny. He was too little, in my opinion, so off it went.
Yeah, no, there are times now, even at 14, the boys will, you know, show me something on YouTube, like some crazy piece of video, and you know, it's like wild. The latest example were these two people that were in one of those orb balls. I don't know the exact name of those, but those big plastic balls. Where you can, like,
that are kind of
you roll down hills in them, and like, you know, you're kind of protected.
Right.
Well, these two like were rolling down a mountain, and it went awry. The plan they had went awry, and they went off the edge here, and now they're going way off the mountain, like down at super warp speeds.
Oh my God.
They go off the mountain, end up in like in a bed of water. And somehow one of them survived all this, was like kind of the story. It was like amazing that someone would actually survive, and the other one unfortunately didn't. But as they're like reading it and they're watching it, they're laughing. And I'm like, you can't, you know, I said, I don't want to watch this if you think it's funny. You know, it's like I was kind of I was almost annoyed with them, like mad, because they're old enough now to know better. And like my one son was quickly like, you could see his face change, like, I'm not laughing. And my other son still had that, like, you know, ridiculous smile on his face, and I'm like, hey, you know, I guess I just outed him. I just almost said his name. You know, I said it's not funny. I mean, if you're gonna show me this video, I mean, first of all, I don't really care that much. It's a terrible story. I don't really care to see it. I said, but if you're annoying me that you actually think this is kind of funny. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, like then to get apologetic. But to your point, Brenda, it is sometimes concerning when you see a young person and how they handle a story that you know is not even remotely comical.
Well, and I just don't know if you understand consequences, you know, or of, you know, like real death.
No, you can't. Of course,
at that age.
No way.
So
no way.
Yeah, I don't know.
No way.
But Brenda, did you did you wait till they were 13 for PG-13 movies, or did you watch something first and then be like, okay, like this is fine, we may fast forward through this scene before you let them watch it? Or did you try and watch stuff with them? Yeah, you know, guys, it's been a long time ago because they're 23 and 28, but their dad, huge Star Wars fan. Yeah. So that was PG something. I mean, all down to the time.
Yeah.
Was it just PG?
Honestly, yes.
Because that was, you know, that was huge. Zach was a huge, like, you know, Star Wars fan. Yeah. And then, you know, back to the Batman thing, I was showing Drew my phone because literally he is a huge DC Batman fan. And I will get like texts about the trailer. I feel like this has been in the works for 9 years. It hasn't, but he keeps showing me. I'm like, I don't want to talk about Batman. That's the only superhero character that I've ever liked or cared about or whatever. Because Batman? Yeah, I think Batman's cool. I kind of grew up with it.
Not Spider-Man even?
I don't care about Spider-Man.
Huh, okay. I kind of like both of those guys, and that's about it for me.
What are people saying on the stream? Rod, we got to address this because everybody's asking about the mask.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up earlier.
What's happening?
Why are you suddenly wearing a mask?
So I just have, you know, for the last handful of years, whenever I get a cold, I have and my mother's the same way. So I don't know if it's something genetic physically or not, but I have a nagging cough for literally several weeks after I feel 100% fine, like not even blowing my nose anymore. So anyway, I'm on the final days, what I hope are the final days of a nagging cough. So I'm just covering up my mouth in case I have to.
Maybe your nose too
cough.
during the
Well,
pandemic. Just pull that right up.
No, I'm not doing that, but I'm covering up my mouth.
So it is completely not a COVID situation because you're not covering your nose. It's a cough situation, and that's why you're only covering your mouth. Am I reading this
sir.
right?
I think
yes,
we're
you're
doing it
reading
wrong.
that correct. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not giving you a hard time.
No, you're reading it exactly correctly.
But you wearing
Covering
your
up my
mask
mouth
like that is
also
becoming the topic of the show.
No, exactly.
It really is.
People are uncomfortable.
Oh,
like in
gosh.
this day and age, I think they're worried
I just
or
want to
they're
know
wondering.
what's going on.
Oh, yeah,
What's up with my man Rod?
Rod is fine. And if people want me to cover my nose, the answer would be I can just dismiss myself from the stream. So that's the option.
Now, can you do the show while rubbing your belly and patting the top of your head? Can you do that?
Can what else am I doing, Drew?
Nothing. As you look for comments, I'm going to share one more story with you real quickly.
Yeah.
I think like raising kids, honestly, and we've all been involved in this process, it's like a science experiment, right? And we all are sort of experimenting with different ways to do it. We read about other ways to do it, and some things we follow, some things we don't. Like I feel like, generally speaking, we probably let our kids, by our country's standards, by popular standards, we let our kids watch violence, earlier than most would have in movies. They've probably been exposed to sexual content in movies, not like, I'm not talking about sex scenes, but just innuendo or whatever the case may be, earlier than a lot of people would be comfortable with in their house. And I don't know how it happened, it just sort of did. Like my wife and I fell kind of in the same place together where we were both okay with what was happening. She was totally cool with them watching like Halloween, Cujo, you name the scary movie during Halloween season when they were like 6.
Ooh, I
Seriously.
would have been terrified.
And they weren't. I just looked up real quick the date on Jurassic World. That was kind of like the rebirth of the Jurassic Park series, that big movie that came out. And I wanted to find out the year.
That was fairly recent.
2015, Nina. So a little bit further back than I realized. The boys were then 8. And I remember that was a huge deal in our house. We went to Jurassic World in the theater, the big screen, because the boys couldn't wait to see it. And they were 8 years old. And I know a lot of families, when their kids were still like 10, 11, were like, oh, they don't want to watch Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. It's too scary for them. So every family's different. Every kid is different. But I just felt like our 2 boys always seemed to be okay with that content, even at an early age.
Yeah. It is interesting, and I have a 4-year-old, but it is even hard to find G-rated, even kids movies. Like most Disney movies are PG now, and it is really hard to find. I mean, G-rated stuff is Sesame Street and like very
young,
simplistic, and
you know what?
So some of the stuff I have to be like really careful. She's super into superheroes, and like she likes watching old Batman or old Spider-Man ones with the Green Goblin, like the old cartoons. And some of those, you're totally right, Brenda. It's like women's stuff and it's the old kind of like whatever cheesy stuff. But still, I'm like, I don't know. She's 4, but it seems fine to me because it's so dated.
Right.
But
again, she's not dated. She's just starting out. I mean, I think that's once you introduce it, you really can't pull it back. And I don't mean access to it. I just mean what gets in here.
Yep.
Right? Once they see it, that does morph into whatever. I mean, it just sticks with you most times when you see it. It's interesting that we talk about what movies that we will let our children watch when they've got access to everything right here, and so do their friends. And it's not just PG-13 movies. It's everything from that to porn. And there are no firewalls. It's like, I can look at it. It's stunning. I think if I were a parent now with a kid, that's what I would be really concerned about, is just the easy access to that stuff.
And you gotta like try and lock down the phone. I remember my cousin showed me Nightmare on Elm Street when I was probably 8 or something like that, and it terrified me, and he thought it was hilarious. He's 2 years older than me. I don't know how we started watching it in the basement of their house when all the adults were upstairs, and it terrified me. And then I remember watching like Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, now one of my favorite Christmas movies ever. But there are some bad words in there. And we were watching it in the other room at Christmas with my cousins, and my parents walked in, and lo and behold, some bad word come up, and my mom was like, you're leaving the room. And I'm like, Mom, stop it.
Right.
This is embarrassing. I want to watch this movie with everybody else. And it is just like a cultural thing of some parents let you and some parents don't. And
I loved going to other people's houses because my parents parents really were locked down on that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Like they didn't curse, they didn't want me watching movies like that, and of course I was the little one who was super curious about everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were like, towing the line.
So did you carry that into raising your own kids, you think, or was there a part of you that wanted to dial it back because you felt like it was really strict in your house growing up?
Oh, no, I think early on I kind of carried that, kind of more old school with the kids.
Yeah.
Especially with the first one, like everything had to be pristine. I was just, a neurotic mother. It was like everything had to be just so. He was like, but, that kind of eases as things go on.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left, and I want to go around the Brady Bunch boxes. Rod, let's start with you. Who is Batman to you? Like, who is the best actor of Batman?
I liked Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I did too.
I liked Michael Keaton. I liked, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name, Vicky Vale in the original ones. Kim Basinger.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I don't know the
And Jack
actor.
Nicholson played the Joker.
The Joker, he was so
The gentleman that played Alfred, and I can't think of his name.
Oh, is that Michael Caine?
Yes.
Yep, Michael Caine.
There was an earlier in the original. Wasn't there in the original movie a different Alfred, or at some point there was a different Alfred besides Michael Caine?
Question for you, Rod
I
Hill.
can't think of his name. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember in the TV, I know Nina will not, Brenda May, you certainly should.
Yeah.
Do you remember who played the Penguin in the Batman television series?
Oh, oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
You remember Brenda?
Yeah.
Beat Rod to the punch. Give it to me.
Burgess Meredith.
Very well done, Brenda Braxton.
Yeah.
The guy who played Rocky's trainer in the Rocky movies was the Penguin.
Right.
In the,
Now I remember.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
What a weird character, right?
Oh,
Yeah, all of
You're
them.
going to have a bad guy who looks and shapes like a penguin and his name is Penguin? Like, that's a bad guy?
Yeah.
Kind of like the Oregon Ducks. You're like, that's fighting ducks, really?
I'm going to take my turn that you're giving me to name my
Okay,
favorite
yes,
Batman.
your turn, go.
But I'm going to use my turn to say something else about watching bad movies with your kids.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'll go Michael Keaton.
Okay.
But when my kids come home now from school, 8th grade now, they actually tell, and you guys know I've told you, they tell us a lot. They talk very openly about what's going on in school.
Love that.
And, what they're telling me, kids are starting to date now in 8th grade, not our boys, but some of their friends are dating. There was just a big breakup.
What is dating in 8th grade? Because to me, it was you might hold hands in the hallway, and you may talk on the phone.
There's
But
definitely
you
some of that. They
stand
meet up at
together
Starbucks.
with
they meet
friends.
up at Starbucks. They have a coffee or whatever their drink of choice is at the Starbucks.
Coffee?
That's an 8th grade date. Big breakup in the 8th grade class recently. I'm not going to get into names. That wouldn't be fair.
Okay.
But my point is this. They come home and tell me some crazy story. They tell me what the kids are talking about, the language they use, the innuendo that's mentioned, all this stuff. When I'm done hearing these stories, I know that it's okay to watch The Hangover with my boys because
But they don't know what it is
they
or
do,
means.
Nina.
Some of
do.
it.
They do.
Gosh.
Absolutely.
I don't like that.
They
we need to stop being quite so naive.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
So when I watch The
right.
Hangover with them, it is not blowing them away. What they were just talking about with friend A and B is far more over the top than what
But then
we just
you were
watched.
saying sometimes, then they were like, but what is that actually?
Well, maybe the scenario was like
They know the words and anyways.
There's some words used that they don't use in school, right?
Yes.
I do remember when I was watching E.T. with them, which I thought was the safest movie I could watch with my 5-year-olds. It wasn't necessarily. Early on in E.T., someone says, the kids are arguing. He says, "Shut up, penis breath."
Yeah.
Penis breath, right? Like, why did they have to go with that line in E.T.? And I remember looking at my kids like, they didn't even notice that. Okay, we're moving. Like, it was like, oh, I forgot about that part.
All right, so Michael Keaton, Brenda.
You know what, honestly.
We'll end on that note. Brenda, who's your Batman?
Yeah, I stopped paying attention to Batman after Adam West. I watched that little show as a kid, but Bat is not really
Well,
my
Zach
thing.
wants you to say Robert
Whatever.
Pattinson now, and he hasn't seen the movie yet.
Meh.
Who's the one that I like? American Psycho guy.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, I like
He's a great
Christian Bale.
actor.
I loved Michael Keaton. He was my Batman. He was my first Batman. But I think Christian Bale just was so good in, his voice.
You say it like you dated these Batmen.
Yes.
No, but okay, so there's a funny movie. Drew, have you seen The Neighbors? Do you remember that movie? Zac Efron, Seth Rogen and what's his wife move in next to this frat? And the frat is like so rowdy that they're not giving quiet time to the new family.
Yeah.
Anyway, they smoke a joint, Seth Rogen and Zac Efron, and they get into this discussion of who's your Batman? Like, what generation are you of actor? And so then they start doing the voice, and like Seth Rogen does the Michael Keaton, like, oh, I'm Batman.
Yeah.
And then the other guy does the Christian Bale, and it's this whole hilarious scene. And so that's why I say it that way.
That line sticks out to me still from that Michael Keaton Batman, the first one, where he's holding that bad guy. He's got him in his clutches, and he's like, who are you? I'm Batman.
Yeah, and he says it just like that, all gritty. Yeah, it's going to be a good movie. Okay. So violence, fine. Sex, kind of uncomfortable. So
That's
these
just
are the
because I'm
things
still
that we
uncomfortable
learned
with it.
here
Well, they're screwed
today.
up.
Bye, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good Thursday.